Hello, mighty companion. Hello, mighty companion. This is Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to Hardcore Course in Miracles. And we're here on Facebook Live. And I'm so glad to have you here. I'm glad that we are going deep. I'm glad that we are going to learn about how should you spend your day. If you're going to be a teacher of love, if you're going to be a demonstrator of the truth, how do you spend your day? How do you do that? We're going to talk about that. We're going to learn that. We're going to share that. And I'm so glad to have you with me. I'm so glad that you are listening with me. And we are going to do it, and we're going to do it right now. But we're going to start out with our theme song. And our theme song is We Are One. This is Earl Purdy. Welcome to Facebook Live. We're going to be doing How Should You Spend Your Day? If you're going to practice the truth, if you're going to become a demonstrator of love, of happiness, of the truth, how would you spend your day? So let's get started, and let's use our theme song, We Are One, to get centered. I'm so glad to be with you. So be sure to breathe, and let this sink. And then we're going to get into our lesson for today.
There's a call for God, I see it everywhere. Everybody's running scared, and everything is turning upside down. But the words I hear, they keep coming through from deep inside of me and you. It's telling us that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Now let's come together and understand that love was born inside of everyone. He's waiting for us to choose love as ourselves. If you choose love, you know you choose me too. And everyone becomes a part of you. And then you'll know that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one.
I'm Earl Raj Purdy, and I want to welcome you to Hardcore Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. We're going to talk about how should the teacher of love, the teacher of truth, how should you spend your day? If you're going to be a demonstrator of God, a demonstrator of love, how should you spend your day? So that's what we're going to talk about. It's on page 40 in the manual for teachers in the blue Course in Miracles book, the Foundation for Inner Peace version. page 40.
You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart.
We're beating the same heart.
We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it. Know that we are one. Oh, 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 we are one. Yo, yeah, we are one. Oh, oh, we are one. I am you, and you are me.
I am you and you are me. I am you and you are me. I am you and you are me. It's so good to be with my mighty companions. I'm so glad to have a chance to focus on some sanity and some truth. Whew. So are you ready to hear what the Course in Miracles says about how you should spend your day? Well, we're going to be in section 16, how should the teacher of God spend his day? In A Course in Miracles in the Manual for Teachers. The only thing that you need to remember is that you need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas that I say to you, you may resist. Some of the ideas that I give you from A Course in Miracles, you might resist, you might resist, you might resist. Some of this stuff that I say to you, you might resist. Some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles, you might find hard to believe. Some of the ideas in A Course in Miracles, you will find hard to believe. Some of the ideas in A Course in Miracles, you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas in A Course in Miracles may startle you. You're not being asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. We're not going to analyze A Course in Miracles. If you use the ideas, do you know that if you use the ideas will start to have meaning to you, but only if you use the ideas, not if you analyze the ideas, but only if you use the ideas. If you use the ideas, you will know that the Course in Miracles is true. That's how I know whether or not someone's really, really, truly practicing and applying the Course in Miracles, because in my 40 years of teaching and studying A Course in Miracles, I've never seen anyone actually apply the ideas and remember the ideas and not get the peace and the support and the help that the Course in Miracles uses. Because the ideas in the Course in Miracles will show you that they are true if you use them. So how should you spend your day? Well, if you are an advanced teacher of God, if you are an advanced demonstrator of love, if you've been doing the Course in Miracles and doing it sincerely for quite a while, do you know that one of the things that you'll recognize is that this question, how should you spend your day, would be a meaningless question, because as an advanced teacher of God, as an advanced demonstrator of truth, there is no program, because the lessons change each day for the advanced teacher, someone that's actually been doing this for a while and applying it for a while. There is no program. The lessons are going to change every day. But what is the thing that you become sure of as you get more advanced in A Course in Miracles? You're going to become aware of one thing about the lessons that change every day. You realize that the lessons that change every day don't change at random. And since you know that your lessons are going to change every day when you become more advanced, and you also know that the lessons don't change at random, and you understand that, what are you going to do? Well, the Course in Miracles says, well, you're going to start resting and you're going to be content. If I know that I'm going to have a lesson every day from Spirit, and I know those lessons change every day, and I know those lessons don't change at random, then I just rest content. So why would I rest content after 40 years of doing the Course in Miracles, for instance? Well, because I know after doing the Course in Miracles 40 years, I know that the lessons are going to change every day. And I also know that I'm going to be told what my role should be this day and every day. So when you really get advanced on your spiritual path with the Course in Miracles, you know that the Holy Spirit, your higher self, is going to tell you everything that you should be doing, what your role is every day. And since you're going to be given your instructions every day, then you rest and you feel content. Because you know that those who share that lesson, who share that role, you know that that person is going to find you. Whoever's supposed to meet with you that day, whoever you're supposed to connect with that day, you know that that person is going to find you so that you can learn your lessons for the day together. So you know that there's not going to be anybody that's absent who you need. Every day, everybody you need is going to show up. Everybody you need to learn your lessons in truth and lessons in love, those people are not going to be absent. So does that mean that anybody that is absent from your life in any particular day at any particular time, then that's a person that does not need to be in your life that day? Everybody that needs to be in your life for you to learn the lessons of love and happiness that you need to learn that day, they're going to be there. And anybody that's not in your experience right now at this time is somebody that you don't need. So anybody that's not in your life right now, that's someone that you don't need in your life right now. Did you hear what I said? Anybody that wasn't in this day today is somebody that you didn't need to be in this day today. Because there'll never be somebody that's absent that you really need. I love that thought. That way it keeps me from yearning and longing for people who are not in my life right now. Everybody that I talked to today, those were the people that I needed to talk to today. And as an advanced teacher of God, I know that my lessons change every day. And I know that everybody that I need is going to be in my life that day. And I also know that I'm going to be told by the Holy Spirit what my role should be. And that person or the people who are supposed to find you so that you can learn your lessons together, they're going to show up in your life today. So everybody that's sent into your life, do you know that they're sent into your life with a learning goal already set? And it will be a lesson that you can learn this day. So anybody that comes into your life, they're coming there to give you a lesson in love and truth that you both need, that you can both learn today, right now. So any lesson coming from God, any lesson that's coming from Holy Spirit, any lesson that's coming from love and truth is going to be a lesson you can learn when? It's going to be a lesson you can learn today. So do you know that for the advanced teacher of God, for the advanced teacher of truth, this question, how you should spend your day, is superfluous. This lesson about how you should spend your day, that question has been asked and that question has been answered. So what does an advanced teacher of truth do? They stay in constant contact with the answer. See, when I have the Course in Miracles, as far as I'm concerned, the Course in Miracles gives me constant contact with the answer. I often tell my clients and my students that any lesson that the Holy Spirit wants you to have and wants you to learn is a lesson you can learn this very day. And since the Course in Miracles represents the higher power speaking to me because I've accepted the Course in Miracles as my spiritual path, then that means I've accepted that God communicates to me, that the higher power communicates to me through A Course in Miracles. That's the advantage of having a spiritual path, because the spiritual path gives you very direct instructions about what to do in any situation so that you don't have to figure that out on your own. So I keep in constant contact with the answer, which is the same as saying I keep in constant contact with the Course in Miracles. I keep in constant contact with the teachings of my spiritual path. And that's what you have to do. You have to keep in constant contact with God, your spiritual self, your divine self. So if you're an advanced teacher of God, you are actually set. That means you see the road on which you are walking. You see that road stretch surely and smoothly before you. So what we just heard was the way that you will be once you really become more of a master of this material and you really become more of a master of the truth. If you become a master of the truth, you know that your lessons change every day. You know your lessons don't change at random. You know that you're going to be told everything that you need to do from the Holy Spirit, your higher power, so you rest in content. You know that those who you're supposed to be with that day that's going to share your lessons with you, that you're going to find each other. When you are more advanced and you're more awake, then it also means that you know there's nobody missing in your life that you need. There's no such thing as needing somebody that's not in your life right now. There's no such thing as needing a relationship with someone that's not in a relationship with you right now. When you really wake up spiritually, you know that everybody's in your life right now who would be best to be in your life right now. And anybody that's not in your life right now is actually somebody you don't need in your life right now at this particular time. And you always keep in constant contact with your guidance. You always keep in constant contact with God. And once that happens, your road becomes smooth. Did you hear what I said? This is what happens. But what about those who haven't reached that level of consciousness? What about people who have not reached that certainty about what their path is and their role is? What about the beginners? What about the ones that's just getting started? Well, if you're just getting ready on the spiritual path, if you're just getting committed, if you're just getting dedicated, then you're really not ready for that kind of lack of structuring. If you're trying to learn how to forgive, you're trying to learn how to let go of the past, and you're trying to learn how to let go of your grievances and your sense of separation, then you need structure. You need discipline. You need some structure. You need some rules to follow. You need something that you're studying. You need something that you need to personally apply. So what must you learn if you need to learn how to give the day to God? If you want to learn how to give the day to the higher power? If you want to learn how to give your day to love, what do? Especially if you're newer in this. Well, there are some general rules that apply. Would you like to hear the general rules? There's some general rules that apply, even though you got to use it in your own way. So the Course in Miracles says each one must use these rules as best they can in their own way. So that I use the Course in Miracles as best I can in my own way. You have to use the Course as best you can and do it the best you can in your own way. But there are going to be some general rules that you need to really get clear about, and some general rules that you need to apply. What are these general rules that you need to apply? And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so grateful. I'm Earl Purdy. I'm so grateful that you want to be happy and you want to know how to spend your day. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is this. What does the Course in Miracles say about routines? Well, actually, the Course in Miracles says routines as such are dangerous. What? Yeah, routines can be dangerous because you can make your routine become a god in its own right. You can be more caught up in your routines than what you're doing the routine for. So actually, routines can really threaten the very goals that you set the routine up for. So what should you do? What should you do? Well, broadly speaking, it can be said that what you should do is start the day right. Start the day correctly. So the first thing that you would do is you need to start the day right. So what does it mean to start the day right? It means that you need to remember that you can always start the day again if you begin the day in error. If you begin the day in anger or fear or anxiety, if you begin the day without actually focusing in on your spiritual lessons first, then that's beginning the day in error. You're making a mistake if you start your day without taking some time for meditation and focusing in on the truth and focusing in on higher power first thing in the morning. So you need to create a time. You need to wake up earlier if that's what's necessary for you to take the time to focus in on your Course in Miracles lesson or your spiritual path and to do your meditation and to do some study. Start the day right. You start the day right by focusing in on the truth. You start the day right by focusing in on your spiritual path. And if you see yourself as a Course in Miracles student, then you start the day right by reading or focusing in on the Course in Miracles. I would advise you to do it with focusing on your workbook lesson every day. And if you should begin in error, which means that you didn't start the day and focus on the truth first and take some personal time for your meditation and contemplation and quiet time, then begin again. Because if you focus in on God and on the truth first thing, then there are obvious advantages. And what's the advantage of starting out by focusing on the truth? It's going to save you time. It's going to save you time. It's well to start the day right. If you begin in error, which means you begin in anger or anxiety or upset first thing in the morning, then begin again because it will save you time. So what is it best to do at the beginning? The best thing to do at the beginning is to think in terms of time. The first thing you want to do, you want to think in terms of time. Now, thinking in terms of time, do you know thinking in terms of time, that's not the ultimate criterion. But at the beginning, thinking in terms of time is probably the simplest criterion to observe. So I'm going to go through this. It's a kind of a long section, so I'm going to move a little bit faster than I normally do. But that's why you can listen to it over and over and over again on the replay. So if you need to have some structure because you're developing the ability to follow your inner guidance and follow the teachings of the Course. The first thing you need to do is think in terms of time, because at the beginning, saving time, that's going to be the early emphasis. So what does the Course in Miracles emphasize at first when you're learning how to spend your day with the truth and spend your day with love? Think in terms of saving time. So what saves you time? What saves you time is to start out each day focusing in on the truth. That's going to save you time. And although saving time does remain important throughout the learning process, saving time remains important during the learning process. The longer you study the Course, then the focus on time is going to become less and less emphasized. So the longer you study your spiritual path, the less and less the emphasis is going to be on you saving time. But at the beginning, what is it you need to do at the outset? At the very beginning, we can safely say what? We can safely say that devoting time to starting the day correctly does save you time. See, when I get up in the morning and I devote myself to focusing in on my Course in Miracles lesson, which is giving me the practical application of the material that I'm supposed to use all day, that saves me time because I'm going to develop my ability to be a demonstrator of love and truth even faster if I focus in on the truth, on God, on higher power, on love, first thing in the morning. So how much time should you spend? How much time should you spend devoting yourself to starting the day correctly? How much time should you spend focusing in on spirit in the morning? Well, that depends on you. How much time you're going to devote to your spiritual awakening, and how much time you're going to spend on your personal peace and learning the truth, that depends on you. You are the teacher. You're learning to be a demonstrator of God, a demonstrator of truth, a demonstrator of freedom, a demonstrator of love. That's what teacher of God means. Are you aware that the Course in Miracles says a teacher is a demonstrator, and that God is love, and that God is freedom? So you want to be a demonstrator of love. You want to be a demonstrator of sanity. You want to be a demonstrator of peace. So how much time you spend on learning how to do that, that's up to you. But you cannot claim the title of being a teacher of God. You can't claim the title of really being a demonstrator of what the Course in Miracles is teaching. You cannot claim that title until you've gone through the workbook. You can't claim the title of a true teacher and demonstrator of the Course and a true teacher of love until you have gone through the workbook. Because you're learning through the framework of the Course. So how can you learn within the framework of the Course if you don't do the workbook, which gives practical application of the ideas? One of the weirdest things that Course in Miracles students sometimes ask me is, what is it that they need to do in order to get rid of the upset and the fear and the anger right after hearing exactly what the Course in Miracles is saying that you should do. So unless you do the workbook, then the Course in Miracles will not really become a part of your thought system and your way of allowing yourself to have peace. After 40 years, I'm telling you, the workbook is the key, but it's also what I've seen most students have the most resistance to doing. That's like saying I don't know how to bake a cake, and I'm going to expect the cake to show up on the counter even though I'm not following the recipe. So many times Course in Miracles students want the peace and the miracles that the Course is promising without actually studying the Course and doing what the Course says do. So you cannot claim the title of being a teacher of God, a teacher of the love, if you want to do it within the framework of A Course in Miracles until you've gone through the workbook. Because we're trying to learn through the framework of A Course in Miracles. So what happens after you complete the workbook? Well, after the completion of the more structured practice periods, and that's what the workbook contains, structured practice periods. Then after you do the workbook, and I mean actually do the workbook, then your individual need becomes the chief consideration. So that's up to you. Then after that, your individual need becomes your primary consideration. So what is it about the Course that you can always count on? You can always count on that the Course in Miracles is very practical. A Course in Miracles is very, 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 very practical. So what happens if you wake up in the morning and you're not in a situation that you can meditate, or in a situation that causes quiet thought when you wake up? Well, if you're in a situation where you can't meditate and focus in on the Course in Miracles and focus in on your workbook lesson in the morning, then you need to remember that you're going to spend time with God and you're going to spend time with the Course as soon as possible. If you can't do it in the morning, then do it as soon as you can. And then do it. So don't use the fact that you can't do it first thing in the morning as an excuse. You just focus in on the truth, the Course in Miracles in your practice as soon as you can. Because duration is not the major concern. So what is the major concern that you don't have to have? What is it that shouldn't be your major concern? How long you do your meditation or your practice, that shouldn't be your main concern. You know, a person could actually easily sit still for an hour with their eyes closed. You could sit up there with your eyes closed for an hour and don't accomplish anything. A person could sit with their eyes closed for an hour and not accomplish anything. And a person could just give God and the truth one instant, and in that instant join with God and the truth completely. So you could join with God in love and truth instantly, and you could meditate in what you think of as meditating, and a person could sit still and quiet with their eyes closed for an hour and actually accomplish nothing. And you could easily just give God an instant of your time and join with God or higher power completely. Please remember that the Course in Miracles is a spiritual teaching. The Course in Miracles is spiritual psychotherapy. The Course in Miracles is a spiritual teaching. It's not a regular self-help book that's about manifesting things in the outer world. The Course in Miracles is about you having complete inner peace no matter what's happening in the outer world. And it's about healing your sense of separation with God, which is your source. It's a spiritual teaching. I want to emphasize that. So even if you have resistance to the idea of God or a higher power, it still doesn't stop the Course in Miracles from being about a higher power and making contact with that higher power, or being a God spiritually centered teaching. So I just want to be clear about that. The Course in Miracles is what kind of a teaching? It's a spiritual teaching. It's a teaching that's trying to help you remove all blocks to your awareness of your connection to your Creator. Because do you know the Course in Miracles says the only problem we got is our sense of separation from our Creator, which the Course says is just a failure in communication, that we don't really know how to communicate with God, that we don't really know how to communicate with our higher power. And because we don't know how to communicate with God, then there's a temptation to say there is no God. So the Course is telling us over and over again that this Course is practical. And if you're not in a situation where you can meditate or focus on the Course in the morning, then do it as soon as you can. And it doesn't have anything to do with how long you do it. You could just take a minute and join with God in love and truth completely. And you could sit for an hour and not accomplish anything. Perhaps the one generalization. What is the one generalization? The one generalization that can be made is this. As soon as possible after you wake up, take your quiet time. As soon as possible after you wake up in the morning, take your time to focus in on the truth in God and meditation and your workbook lesson. Now, when you are focusing in on the truth and you're meditating and you're focusing in on spirit, what's the other thing? Well, you're sitting quietly, you're trying to focus in, you're trying to get your day started by focusing in on the truth. What do? Well, if you begin to find it difficult, you're trying to meditate, you're trying to focus in on the truth, you're doing your workbook lesson, you're trying to apply it, and you're trying to take that quiet time, you keep doing it as long as you can, and when it becomes kind of difficult for you to focus in, then what the Course says that you should do is, when you find it difficult, keep on doing it for 2 minutes after you find it difficult. If you find meditating and focusing in on the truth, and you find that it's becoming difficult for you to focus in, then keep on doing it for 2 minutes past the time that you feel restless and it becomes difficult. Now, if you keep focusing in on your meditation and focusing in on the truth and focusing in on God, and it begins to become difficult, then you keep on doing it for 2 minutes. And if after 2 minutes the difficulty doesn't diminish, then that's how you know it's time to stop. It's time to stop when it becomes difficult for you to do it more than 2 minutes. It becomes time for you to stop your meditation or you're focusing in on the lesson or the truth if you keep on doing it 2 minutes after you find it difficult and the difficulty does not melt away. But if you find that you keep on doing it 2 minutes past when it becomes difficult, then you know it's not time to stop, and you would still continue to meditate or focus in on the truth as long as you could. See, this is very practical. Nothing that I'm saying is abstract. Nothing that I'm saying is anything that you couldn't do tomorrow or today if you really wanted to. One of the things I've learned with my 40 years of working with the Course in Miracles is that any advice that I give myself that has to do with my happiness, happening in the future, or when something outside of myself is different, then I know I'm listening to the wrong voice and I'm listening to my ego's guidance. Because nothing that's coming from God, according to the Course, God would never ask you to do something. Your Creator would never ask you to do something. Your guidance would never ask you to do something that you couldn't do right now. I'll say it again. The guidance that comes from Spirit will always be guidance that you can do in the now. Spirit is about now. Spirit isn't about the past. Spirit isn't about the future. Spirit is about your happiness and your peace and your joy being right now. So it has nothing to do with anything on the physical, in the physical world that you got to have before you can have peace and happiness. There's nothing wrong with having the things of the physical world. There's nothing wrong with having the things of the physical world. Everything in the physical world is neutral. It's going to be whatever you want it to be for you. You can use anything in the physical world to make you happy, or I put it this way. You can use anything in the spiritual world in a way that you give yourself happiness through it, or you can use anything and anybody in the physical world to make you miserable and unhappy. But everything in the physical world is neutral. So real happiness comes from within. Even though we've heard that a gazillion times, that's the truth. Your real happiness really is going to come from within. And then that happiness that you have within is going to be extended out into every area of your life. And then you'll find that your whole life becomes transformed. Woo! So if you're studying, meditating, focusing in on the truth and taking your quiet time and it begins to become difficult, then you just sit there for a minute and you keep on doing it for 2 more minutes. And if the difficulty does not drop away and you still find yourself having a hard time focusing in, then that's when you know it's time to stop. So if you start meditating and focusing in on the truth, and 1 minute after you start trying to focus in on the truth, you start to feel restless, and then 2 more minutes pass by and it doesn't diminish, it's time to stop. Listen, very specific instructions. So what should you do at night? Well, you should do the same procedures at night. Or maybe you're a person that need to do your Course in Miracles lesson and your truth focus in the evening, early in the evening. Maybe after you get off from work, for instance. If it's not feasible for you to take that quiet time before you go to sleep at night, and if it's not feasible for you to take that time of focusing in on the truth first thing in the morning, then maybe you should focus in on the truth right before you go to bed, right before you go to sleep. So some people would do better to do the Course in Miracles and study the Course in Miracles right before they go to sleep. So that's 3 times. Do it in the morning. If you can't do it in the morning, do it as soon as you can, maybe fairly early in the evening. If you can't focus in on the Course or the truth in the evening, then do it before you go to sleep. Now, what is it that's not wise to do? It's absolutely not wise for you to lie down. Because you know and I know that if you lie down trying to focus in on the Course or the truth, that there's a good chance you're going to fall asleep. So it's better to sit up in whatever position that you prefer. Sit up in whatever position you prefer. You should sit up in whatever position you prefer to study the truth and study the Course. It's not wise to lie down to do this. And having gone through the workbook and having studied the Course for a while, you must have come to your own conclusions about what's best for you, the best position to sit, to do this stuff. If you've been doing it for a while, you probably discovered what's best for you. So what is it that you should do if possible? Well, what you should do if possible is just before going to sleep. That's a desirable time to devote to love, to truth, to God. Why is it a really cool thing to do to focus in on the Course and focus in on God? 30 years ago, I recorded the entire Course in Miracles using my own name. Instead of you, I'd say Earl. And so 30 years ago, I started to listen to the Course in Miracles all night, every night. And I'm doing that today. Every night, I put the Course in Miracles on. and I listen to it all night long. You can get it on Audible, and you can listen to it all night long. I recorded it because I realized early in my study of A Course in Miracles that focusing in on God while I'm sleeping or before I go to sleep, focusing in on the truth, it actually sets my mind into a pattern of rest. And do you know what sets your mind in a pattern of rest? What sets your mind in a pattern of rest is anything that orients you away from fear. Anything that moves you away from fear is always something that sets your mind in a pattern of rest. So the Course in Miracles is so loving, so beautiful, so comforting that when you hear it, it relaxes you and it will set you into a pattern of rest. So if it's expedient to spend this time earlier than when you go to bed, at the very least, what should you do? Well, don't forget a brief period. Not more than a moment will do. Not more than, all you need is a minute. Take a brief period and close your eyes and think of God. Think of love. Think of truth. Think of the Creator. If it's not just but a minute, close your eyes and think of God. Close your eyes and think of God. Close your eyes and think of love. Close your eyes and think of love. Close your eyes and think of God. Close your eyes and think of love. Close your eyes and think of God. If just a minute will do. Close your eyes and think of love. Close your eyes and think of God. Don't you know? Don't you know? Just a minute will do. Don't you dare tell me you don't have time to do this. Nobody on the face of the earth is so busy that out of 24 hours, they can't take one single minute and focus on truth and love. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that you don't have enough time. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Close your eyes. But there's one thought in particular that should be remembered throughout the day. So what is the one thought that you ought to remember throughout the day? You should remember peaceful thoughts, joyful thoughts, a thought of limitless release. So you should think about joy and peace and limitless release. Think thoughts of joy and peace and limitless release. Think a thought of joy and peace and limitlessness. Because everything is going to be freed. Everything is going to be freed in joy and peace. Joy and peace, those are the characteristics of you having freedom. How do you know when you are free? How do you know when you're really 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 free? You have thoughts of peace and thoughts of joy and thoughts of limitless release. That's how you know. That's how you know. That's how you know. Why is it a thought of limitless release? Because everything is going to be freed. So, do you know you might think that you've made a place of safety for yourself? You might think that you've made a power that can save you from all the fearful things that you see. You may think that you made a power that can save you from all the fearful things that you are seeing in this dream. Do you know that this is a dream? I know you think it's reality. I know you think you're very much awake, but the truth is, this is a dream. You're in a dream. And you might think that you've made powers that can save you in the dream. So your safety doesn't lie in the powers and abilities that you've made up for yourself. And when you practice the truth, do you know that the only thing that you're giving up is the illusion of protecting your illusions? And it's the giving up of you trying to protect everything and trying to control everything that makes you really fearful. So it's really foolish to be afraid of what's not even really real. It's foolish to be afraid of nothing. Nothing at all. So I don't know how to break it to you, but your defenses won't work. but you're not in danger. You're not in danger. You're not in danger. You are not in danger. So you don't have any need of your defenses. That's the truth. You may not recognize that yet because you're just now learning. But if you recognize you have no need to defend yourself, then all of your defenses and fears will disappear. And when you stop trying to defend yourself, when you stop trying to protect yourself by yourself without God, then you can accept your real protection. And you do have real protection. You do have something that can protect you. You do have a power that can protect you. So what happens when you have accepted the protection of God? What happens when you get to that point that you have accepted the protection of your Creator? Well, what's going to happen is that time is going to simply and easily slip by for you. Your life is going to become 10 times easier, 10 times more peaceful, and 10 times more loving when you learn how to accept the protection of the universe, when you learn how to accept the protection of God. So what happens when a person has accepted the protection of God? Well, then once you've accepted the protection of God, everything that you used to do to make yourself safe no longer will interest you, because you will know you're safe when you have accepted the protection of God. You will know that you have a guide that will not fail because you've taken the time to learn how to get in touch with your higher self. And so that means that you're not going to make any distinctions anymore among all the problems that you think you have. You're not going to make any distinctions among the problems that you see, because you know that the Holy Spirit, the higher power that you turn with all of your problems, guess what? You know that the Spirit absolutely doesn't have any difficulty resolving every problem that you think you have. God, your higher power, your higher self, has no problem healing every problem that you think you have. So when you really accepted the protection of God, then you recognize you are safe, that you are safe in the present, just like you were safe before all your fears were accepted into your mind. And you will recognize when you have accepted the protection of God, you will know that you are totally safe, and that you are going to be safe when you let your fears and your illusions go. So when you've accepted the protection of God by practicing the Course in Miracles and applying the lessons, then there's not going to be any difference in your state at different times and in different places. I don't care where you are. I don't care who you're with. You're going to feel safe. I don't care where you are or who you're with. You're going to feel peaceful, because you know that all these places that you are in, you will know when you have accepted the protection of love. You will know that God is your safety and that your higher self is with you no matter where you are. And you won't have any need for anything but knowing that. See, right now, the Course in Miracles is telling us exactly how it's going to be when you actually really believe this and have accepted this and you have practiced the truth. Now, there are going to be temptations. You're going to have temptations to go off and act crazy and still get mad along the way that you've yet to travel. You're going to have temptations to forget the truth. So you're going to have a need. And what kind of need? You're going to have the need of reminding yourself all day long that you are protected by God. This is a spiritual teaching. I am not going to shy away from the idea of God, the Creator. That's just what time it is. Because I know, after all these decades of studying, that there is nothing more important to my peace and my safety than my relationship to my higher power. And so if you want to really be able to do this and do this with a whole lot of peace and joy, you have to remind yourself throughout the day of your protection. So how can you do this? How can you remind yourself throughout the day that you're protected by God and love? Particularly during those times when your mind is preoccupied with all the external things that you think you have to take care of in the world. Well, you can just try. That's all you can do. You can try to remember the truth and try to remember God. And your success depends on your conviction that you will succeed. Say what? Your success depends on your conviction that you will succeed. Now, what is the first thing you need to recognize if you want to be successful in allowing yourself to have the peace and the protection that the Course promises? Well, it says you must be sure that your success is not of you. It's not of your ego. It's not your ego. It's not your concept of yourself. It's not your human identity that is actually going to be able to protect you. But you have to recognize that protection can be given to you. Everything that you need can be given to you in any place and in any circumstance that you call for it. I'll say that again. You can get help and you can receive help and healing in any place or any circumstance that you call for it. Now, there are going to be times. Do you know that there are going to be times that your certainty will waver? There's going to be times that you have fear. There's going to be times that you have doubt. And the instant that you lose your faith in God, the instant that you lose your faith in God, in the truth that you're studying, how can you tell when you are back in your ego? How can you tell when you're back in the part of your mind that thinks that you're separate and on your own? How can you tell when you're back in the part of you that believes it's separate from God? You're going to attempt to rely on yourself alone. Just relying on yourself only, relying on yourself only, relying on yourself only. Don't you forget that that's magic. That's something that's an illusion. That's something that's not going to help you. Relying on yourself without your higher power, that is what the Course in Miracles calls magic. And magic is a sorry substitute for the true assistance that you could get from the Holy Spirit and that you could get from God. Trying to do it all by yourself on your own, that's a sorry substitute for allowing God to help you. It's not enough. What is not enough? It's not enough for you trying to do it on your own by yourself. That's why I tell people this is not a typical self-help book, because a typical self-help book is just trying to make you think that you can handle everything better on your own. So really the typical self-help book that doesn't include God or the relationship with a higher power, it's just reinforcing your ego. That's really all that's happening. So relying on yourself alone, it's not enough. That doesn't work for the Holy Spirit, for your higher teacher, and it's not going to be enough for you. It's time for you to let yourself be helped. It's time for you to let yourself be helped. It's time for you to resign as your own teacher. It's time for you to recognize if you're unhappy and miserable in any area of your life, that's the main area that you shouldn't be in charge of as a separate being. So the avoidance of magic. Do you know the avoidance of magic is the same as the avoidance of relying on yourself alone without God? That is the avoidance of temptation. Because temptation is the temptation for you to try to do things on your own and leave God and love and truth out. So in all forms of temptation is nothing but for you trying to substitute your will for the will of love and the will of God. And these attempts to handle everything on your own, these attempts can seem frightening, but you trying to handle everything on your own by yourself without spirit, the Course in Miracles says actually it's pathetic. So you're trying to do things on your own. You're trying to create your own reality without tuning into your higher self. That's not good, and it's not bad. It's not really having any effect. It's not really rewarding you. It's not really making you sacrifice. It's trying to do it all by yourself without any connection to your higher power. That's not healing, and it's not destructive. It's not quieting. It's not fearful. What you got to recognize is all magic is nothing. Trying to do things on your own by yourself without God, without the higher power, without tuning into spirit, you're just really doing nothing. So when you recognize trying to do anything without God, without truth, and without a higher power, you trying to do anything just relying on your own little wisdom, as the Course would say, when you realize that doing that is not really having any true effect in any kind of way, then you reach the most advanced state. So all these intermediate lessons that you're learning right now, they lead you to recognize that you don't want to do anything without the higher power. You don't want to do anything without the Holy Spirit. You don't want to do anything without love. So magic of any kind, relying on yourself alone, trying to do it by yourself through your own personal wisdom, in all its forms, you're simply doing nothing. So you're not really being condemned. I'm just saying you're not really doing anything. So the powerlessness of you trying to do things by yourself without God, without your connection to a higher power, its powerlessness is the reason it can be so easily escaped. So you shouldn't be terrified by anything that doesn't have any real effect. So your ego really isn't affecting who you really are. Your fears and guilt and you trying to do things on your own without God, you're not going to be punished for that. God doesn't punish. Love doesn't punish. You're just simply not doing anything. That's why nothing changes. So do you know there is no substitute for the will of God? For the will of God, there is no substitute. In simple statement, do you know it's to this fact that there's no substitute for the will of God, which is your perfect happiness? That you're going to devote your day to the idea that there is no will but the will of God. There's no will but the will of my Creator, and the will of my Creator is perfect happiness for me. The will of your Creator is perfect happiness for you. And so every substitute, each time you try to think there's anything that's going to make your life work other than your relationship with your Creator, woo, that's deceiving yourself. If you think you can do something without God, if you think you can do something without the truth, if you think you can do something without love, do you know you're deceiving yourself? So when are you saved from all deception? You'll be saved from all deception as soon as you decide to be safe from all deception. So perhaps you need to remember. What is it that you need to remember? You need to remember that God is with, maybe you need to say to yourself, God is with me, love is with me, spirit is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. Say it to yourself. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. Truth is with me. I cannot be deceived. Love is with me. I cannot be deceived. Maybe you need to remember that. Perhaps you prefer other words. Perhaps you prefer other affirmations. Perhaps you prefer no words at all. But each temptation to accept magic, what is magic? Relying on yourself alone. You must abandon that idea through your recognition that relying on yourself alone without God, without truth, that's not really fearful. Relying on yourself alone and not turning to a higher power, that's not really sinful. Not believing in a higher power or tuning into a higher power, that's not really dangerous. It's just meaningless. It's keeping you from having everything that you want in terms of peace and joy. It's rooted in the idea of sacrifice. Trying to do everything on your own by yourself, that's rooted in the idea of separation, that you're separate from everybody and separate from God. And that's just two aspects of the same mistake. That's all. So what are you choosing to give up? You're choosing to give up everything that you never had, and you never had any power over your experience by yourself without God. And for this sacrifice of your erroneous idea that you're on your own, heaven, which is love and truth, is going to be restored to your awareness. So ask yourself, wouldn't I like to have the exchange of conflict for peace, of fear for love? Don't you know the world would make that exchange if the world could make that exchange? It's your job to teach that there's another way. There's another way to look at things. That you can have a life that is easy, harmonious, smooth, loved, protected, abundance. And so your function is to teach that that can happen. So it's your function to make sure you've learned what the Course is teaching before you try to put on your wisdom on everybody else, or that your teachings, these teachings on everybody that you know. The Course is saying it's your function to make sure you've learned the truth. So what is the only risk possible throughout the whole day? What's the only risk? What's the only temptation? The only temptation throughout the day is to put your trust in magic, the ego, which is putting trust in relying on your little separate self all by yourself, trying to handle everything. Because when you do that, it's going to lead you to pain. Pain is coming from your not creating a connection consciously between you and your Creator. There is no will but God's. There is no desire or will but the will of love. That's the only thing that's real. It's the will of love, the will of God. And when you're an advanced teacher of the truth, then you know that that's true. And you learn that everything else but God is magic. Everything else but being in touch with your higher power and your higher self that you're doing is just magic. It's an illusion. You're not really doing anything by yourself on your own. So what is it that makes people keep depending on their ego and believing in their separate self? The Course says they believe that it works. So what is it that you should be doing all through your training? You should be all through your training, every day, every hour, even every minute, even every second. What is it that you must learn? You have to learn to recognize the forms of ego, the forms of magic, the forms of relying on yourself without God. And you must perceive that that's meaningless. Trying to do anything without your Creator is meaningless. So then you stop being afraid. Fear is withdrawn from all of your attempts to try to make yourself happy that hasn't been working. And so all of these attempts that you've been doing based on separation in your ego, they go. And so when you're no longer trying to do it by yourself and you're allowing higher power to be a part of your life, when the Course teaches you how to do that, that's when the gates of heaven are reopened. And what's heaven? Heaven is a state of complete bliss and oneness. It's not a physical place. Heaven is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness where you recognize the beautiful spiritual being and the powerful spiritual being that you are, that's created to you, that's connected to your Creator. And so you let the light of heaven and the light of love, at the point that you are no longer trying to do it all by yourself because you learned through the Course how to let Spirit do things through you and with you, then that's when you have what happened. You let light shine again on your untroubled mind. And that's how you should spend the day. So that's how you should spend the day. So you have to listen to this over and over again, because I'm the divine repetition teacher. I'm your remembering coach. Remembering what you've just been told is more important than analyzing it or understanding it. And as a full-time teacher of the Course in Miracles, if you like to make a financial expression of appreciation, I really appreciate that. Thank you. If you like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, earlpurdy.com, that's P-U-R-D-Y. You can use Venmo, the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. All you need is my email address. My email address is earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com, Earl Purdy, P-U-R-D-Y, earlpurdy at earlpurdy.com. If you like to have personal coaching by me and counseling using the Course in Miracles and my 40 years of working with metaphysics and higher consciousness, then you should have a clarity session with me. If you know you reached the limit, your limit in some area, and you're ready to have a true change, there's nothing you can bring up to me that I could not share with you how the Course in Miracles says exactly how you should handle that in order to have the healing that you want. I don't care what you think your problem is. There's an answer. It's just a question of whether you love yourself enough to let yourself have the answer, even if it's through somebody else beside me. So they are called clarity sessions. Go to my website, earlpurdy.com. It explains my clarity sessions in detail, and you can self-book a session with me right online. For those of you who are open to more mystical, psychic aspects of receiving guidance from Spirit, I'm also a soul, purpose, astrologer, and numerologist. So that's another way I could be of help to you. I'm here only to be truly helpful. You can see the deep calls for love and the insanity in the world right now. You know it's time for a change. Have you reached your limit? Have you reached your limit? On Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, I do another Course in Miracles Facebook Live. But you also can attend in person if you live in the Denver, Colorado area at 1555 Race Street, R-A-C-E. 1555 Race Street in Denver, Colorado. Zip code 80206. That's every Sunday at 1 o'clock. You can attend in person, but it's also online. Thursdays, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Hardcore Course in Miracles gang. For sincere Course in Miracles students who want to take advantage of my 40 years of working with the Course in Miracles, and my style of teaching and sharing resonates, and you want to get deeper into the Course. I'm very book intensive in my teaching, as you probably noticed. Then 7 p.m. Mountain Time here on Facebook Live on the Earl Purdy page. And please share these videos. Please share these videos. So, let me take 1 minute. So, what should you do? Remember, perhaps you need to remember to tell yourself, if you're afraid, to tell yourself, God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot. Tell yourself that. Tell yourself, God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with me. I cannot be deceived. God is with you. You cannot be deceived. You cannot be fooled, because truth in God and love is with you. So I've told you, if you're an advanced teacher of God, you know that your lessons are going to come to you every day, and you're going to be told everything that you need to be told. You know that nobody's absent that you need. You know that no one will ever be absent that you need, and anyone that's absent is someone that you don't need to be with right now if they're not there. And if you're new, and you know you're new and you're still learning, then you know you need to make a commitment to do the workbook lesson. You know you need to get up in the morning, first thing in the morning, and focus in on your spiritual practice, and that you should do your spiritual practice until it becomes difficult, and then try 2 more minutes after it becomes difficult. And if the difficulty doesn't drop away, then you know it's time to stop. But the difficulty may drop away, and you know it's time for you to keep on doing what you are doing. Remember that you just have to avoid temptation. And what is the temptation? The temptation is to rely just on yourself, just on your own little ego and your own little past learnings, and not see yourself as dependent on your Creator. In the Course in Miracles, the workbook lessons teach you how to give this practical application in your everyday life. And remember that the avoidance of temptation is the avoidance of magic. And magic is what? You relying on yourself alone. So this course is practical. Try to devote some time to the truth, either in the morning or the evening or before you go to bed. And what is it that you need to remember? Try not to lie down when you do it, because you're probably going to go to sleep. But when you focus on the truth before you go to bed, it orients you toward rest and helps get rid of your fear. And as much as possible, think thoughts of joy, think thoughts of peace, think thoughts of limitless release. You are not in danger. If you don't do a doggone thing that the Course in Miracles says, you're not going to be punished. You're not in danger, because the Creator doesn't punish. The Creator lovingly corrects. And when you have really accepted this and you've started to accept your real protection, then trying to make yourself safe all the time no longer interests you, because you know you are safe, and you also know that no matter what problems that you think you have, Spirit doesn't have any problem in alleviating those problems. And so it doesn't matter where you are, because you know God is going to be with you, and you're going to be all right no matter where you are. So there are going to be temptations, and the only main temptation is for you to leave God out and try to handle everything on your own. And the Course calls that magic. And that's what the ego is. So, mighty companion, you are totally innocent. And remember, God is with you. You cannot be deceived. Love is with you, and you cannot be deceived. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for tuning in. Share the video. I have tons of videos on YouTube and on Facebook and on my website, audio and video. I'm here just to be truly helpful. I want your peace and love and happiness, and I want to have my peace and love and happiness, because we are one. Mighty companions, may the Course be with you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for sharing with me.